Have faith. Let it begin. Hello, everyone, and this is Angel. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Have Faith, Let It Begin. We want to thank GABBIE Santana for the use of our theme song, Tested. It is written, performed, and produced by her. Go visit her YouTube channel, GABBIE Santana. We know she is an up-and-coming star. Thank you, GABBIE, for everything you've given us. We appreciate it. I want to talk to you today about something that I think is hitting home to all of us. Back to school. Back to school. You saw the title. Well, it's about that time, almost. We're getting close to it. We're in the middle of the week there, and gosh, I can't believe we're already on the 23rd, 24th of August already. Oh my goodness, I can't look at my date because I'm driving to work like all of you are doing. But it's amazing. Back to school. And it got me thinking. I saw these commercials and they're like, they're back, and it's, school's coming around the corner and people are excited. They're showing those commercials of pencils and pens and paper. I'm just curious. I want to throw this out to all of you. When you see those, do you ever stop to think about when you went to school? Like you ever look at the number 2 pencils and you start remembering that one teacher that used to say, well, everybody, you have to have a number 2 pencil to scribble in the Scantron sheets. Scantron sheets. Oh my goodness, I'm showing my age. Yeah, make sure that you put your, you mark the circles and don't go outside the lines. Yeah, I remember those days. It got me thinking, believe it or not, does everybody remember certain parts of their school times that have, stuck with them for many years? Great stories of being back at school. I encourage all of you to just write me some stories. I'd love to share them on our show. I had a couple stories that I remembered, and I thought they were pretty funny. I actually remember walking up in kindergarten. I really do. I remember walking up and having that lump in my throat because I was leaving my mom, and I was such a mama's boy that. Every time I would walk like 10 feet, I'd turn around and look at her and she'd wave at me. And then I'd keep walking and then I'd turn back and she'd be waving. And then I'd turn ahead and walk back and then all of a sudden I'd see her leaving and I'd start to cry. Yeah, I remember those days. I remember a student being brought into kindergarten and she didn't want to go and the woman was kicking and screaming and the mom had to literally just drop her off and run out of the room. And they had to shut the door and the kid was pounding on the door, screaming, and then all of a sudden, like 20 minutes later, the kid is playing and is having a great time and she forgot all about why her mom left her there. I remember, oh my goodness, I just remember so many stories of being back at school. I remember being picked to hand out the milk and cut the graham crackers. Probably not sanitary now that I think about it. We didn't wear gloves back then. We just were given the graham crackers and you would just cut them up and give them out to everybody. Oh, those are good times. I remember, fast forward, putting on our 5th grade play. As I'm telling these stories, I know it's about me, but I have nobody to relate to other than me. And of course, my nieces and nephews and nephew, I should say, and their stories. But my point I'm trying to make about this episode is, as I'm telling you stories of my childhood, I'm only imagining that some of you are just sitting there thinking about your back to school moments. But there's a lesson here. You know me by now. You know that I tell you a story, and at one point there's a lesson to why I say back to school. The hidden message really here is, it doesn't matter how old you are to go back to school. It doesn't matter how many times you've attempted or how many times you've changed your major. You can always go back to school. I was involved in a relationship for many years prior to my wife where the individual kept telling me that I would never go back to college because I would never amount to anything. And that stuck in my head. And I put my career ahead of my college first until the time came when I felt it was a goal that I needed to achieve. So when I went back at the age of 29 to 30, I had an anxiety attack on my first exam because I failed. And I really felt like that person was sitting in the driver's seat with me, laughing and looking at me and giggling and saying, I told you couldn't do it. I almost quit then. But something inside of me said, you can do this. You can go back to school. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it was easy. It took a couple more years to do it and to get it right. But in May of 2011, I finally graduated from college. And anyone that tells you that you can't go back to school, anyone that tells you that you don't have the capability, that's just not true. We all have the opportunity to go back to school. We all have the God-given talents that we have possessed in our everyday life that we can apply to school. Patience. Believe it or not, patience is number one. Number two, experience. And that's everyday life experience. And number three, the want and the will to achieve a goal. I know that sounds really corny because it's like really easy words, but it's the truth. You have to want and you have that will, the drive to want to achieve that goal. Now, some of you financially maybe can't actually go to school. I know at one time I had that problem. There are different programs out there that allow you to do that. Maybe some of you can't do it because you have a family and you don't have that extra time to go back to college. Hey, I hear you. At one point, I was taking one class a semester. One class. Which, yeah, some of you would say, well, my God, that would take me forever. You know what? It did. It did, because I graduated in 97 and finally of high school, and I finally got my degree in 2011. You just have to have patience. You have to have that will, that drive to succeed. You have to have faith so you can let it begin. And that's what this show's all about. It's talking about topics, issues that we will deal with on an everyday life that we can say we can accomplish no matter what obstacle is in front of us. I want to leave you on a story. I talked about going back to school. And one of the things that happened to me was when I went back to school, I inspired other people at my age to do the same. So not only was I achieving a goal personally of my own, I was inspiring others to do the same. If you have a child that's going back to school, if you have a nephew, a niece, a friend's child, and you see them with the smiles on their faces, moving forward, and you want to be them, you can be them. You will be them. If you take one class, if you take one step, you will feel better about it. Does it mean you're going to finish in 2 or 5 years? Maybe. Maybe not. Give it a try. It's worth it. Here's the story. I was, oh my goodness, I was struggling with math for the longest time. And it was the last class that I needed to pass. I kept failing it. So it delayed my graduation over and over and over again. I just kept failing it and failing it. Finally, I made a choice to walk into my manager at the time. It was working at a roadside assistance. I'm going to mention her name and I'm going to tell her that I'm bringing her up in this story. But yes, her name was my boss, Joni. And she knew that I had this drive to succeed. And she was kind enough to alter my schedule so that I could take a weekday off, which was basically a made-up schedule, so that I could study more at a math lab. And this goes hand in hand with the episode we had earlier this week about scary bosses / good bosses, mentors. Joni was a good boss. She saw the drive in me. She saw that I needed to do this for me and to better myself and my future. And by her enabling me to change my schedule, by her helping me, I was able to achieve my goal, pass math, and get my degree. There are so many people that were influential in my passing, from my wife to my sister, to my friends, to my tutors in the math lab. But it all started with my boss allowing me to make that change, allowing me to better myself by altering one day to get me to the next level. And for that, I will be eternally grateful. So to Joni, I thank you for that. To all of you out there that are listening, all of us are able to go back to school. And if you can't and you don't make that goal, that's okay. Just because I'm telling you that I did it and I'm saying that you're capable of doing it, it doesn't necessarily mean that we can all achieve it. But there are many other things you can do. There are programs now that allow you to take classes from home. There are other type of certificates that you can attend if you want to better yourself, if you want to go back to school. All those opportunities and resources are available to you. And I encourage you to do it if that is something that you have always wanted to do. Because I am living proof of that. And that's where I leave you today. Share your stories with me. Bring back the memories. And remember, it's okay to go back to school. And when you do it with the faith and the confidence that you can do anything you put your mind to. For Have Faith, Let It Begin, my name is Angel. I wish all of you the best of luck. And to all the parents that are sending their kids back to school, yay! It's time to relax. Have faith. Let it begin. Gosh, I remember those number 2 pencils.